Let's go straight into the business for the day. We're looking at emotions. Emotions. Now, my first question, any of you can just attempt. So, what are emotions? Are they important? What role do they play in our lives? You know. Ladies first, they say, right? Okay.
Ladies first, indeed. Well, emotions are a state of altered feelings.
Okay.
And when those feelings are altered, I'm trying to use a very simple definition that relates to everyone watching us today. When those feelings are altered, it as well alters physiological and physical states. So emotions are a large part of who we are as an individual, as a human being. Because even as we go through our daily lives, in a single day, we feel as much as 50 emotions in one day.
Wow.
Yeah.
50.
That much. So you really can't talk about a whole human being or a whole individual without the state of your emotions, the health and wellness of your emotions. Your productivity is tied to your emotions. Your relationships are tied to your emotions. Your physical state is tied to your emotions. Your psychological state is tied to your emotions. So basically, man and emotion are one and the same.
Wow. Wow. Man. Someone said, before I was depressed, I could not imagine thinking of suicide. But when depression descended on me, I noticed a passing thought about death. Then another one. Then another one. Now, thoughts of death act like a stalker. So she's being stalked all over, you know. What do I do about the thought of suicide?
Depression is real. It's a huge problem in this side of the divide. And you find out that, like Akin said, it's a prolonged,
state of sadness.
Altered state of sadness. And the key point out of that sadness is that you are not able to do the things you used to do. Your culpability with life itself becomes challenged. So, feelings of suicide or thoughts of suicide comes from other emotions that sadness rides on, like anxiety, like hopelessness. So out of the sadness, you are having higher anxiety levels because you are not even interacting with other people. You're staying away from people. You don't have triggers that can take you away and switch that emotion for you, because now that emotion is no longer in your control. That's why for some people, they will need mood elevators to handle their depression. They would need assisted drugs to help them handle. For some, it's behavior modification. For some, it's talk therapy. Talking through the source of the sadness. So when you have a state where you are beginning to have suicidal thoughts, it's time to get help. That means you can no longer by yourself. You are becoming what they call clinically depressed. You know, we all use the word depression. You know, I was feeling very depressed yesterday.
That's not depression.
That's not depression.
You were just sad.
You were just sad
over an issue.
But when you become clinically depressed, anxiety levels are also included. You become delusional. For some people, there are other psychological issues that can follow on to clinical depression. You know, some form of manic issues. For some, the anxiety levels exhibit in hearing voices. Hallucinations. And those voices are legitimate to the person experiencing them.
Okay, so at that point,
get help.
Get help.
Speak out. Talk to someone who understands mental health. Because there are people you will talk to and all they will tell you to do is go and take ice cream, or go and play, or just come out of your room.
Or even I'm a pastor, or even go and pray.
I was going to say that, but I wanted you to say that.
No, and the person is not and the person is not even in the right frame of mind to pray.
Someone who can have their bath, who can take a meal, who can converse with someone else, can't pray. That's the truth. Think about it.
The key points to keep in mind during a crisis to maintain our emotional health. This year has been funny. Yeah, it's for me, I said, who knows? Somebody just pressed the reset button. This year, the COVID-19, the lockdown, is something that you should not experience more than once in a lifetime. Okay, so how do you maintain a healthy emotional state of well-being at this point?
Very interesting question. Very interesting question. I think I'd like to be practical and less theoretical, because at the end of the day, this is real life issues anyway. COVID-19 is a particularly good case study of managing emotions. Now, there were a myriad of emotions we all felt at the beginning of COVID-19. There was anticipation, there was anxiety, there was fear,
uncertainty.
There was uncertainty, there was feeling caged at some point. There was hopelessness for some people. There was restlessness for another set of people. So they were it was a cocktail, for lack of a better word, of some of the emotions that we probably haven't had to deal with up front. Not that we've not felt those emotions before, but now we're having to deal with it for a long period of time. So, having said that, your management of your emotional health and the emotions that you feel can either make you or mar you. For a lot of people, and in this part of the world where mental health is not taken seriously, even in church, for lack of a better word, it's not certified that you should actually see someone who is a mental health professional. Not because it's wrong, but just pray about it. Everything will be okay. Yes. But on the flip side, if you don't know how to localize an emotion and switch the button from how it makes you feel to how you want to feel, you will be incapacitated. So for a lot of people inside COVID, they were helpless. That was a large part of holding the emotion. There was so much uncertainty. People were losing money. There was depression. There was people having to deal with being in the same room with their spouses that they were not used to. And there was a lot of conflict. There was open confrontation for anger rather than running away from it. When you had an outlet to just, now you had to deal with whatever emotions you had and talk it out. So managing emotions is not an option. It's something that you must do, and to do it, you need to understand your emotional state. It starts from understanding the emotions you feel. When we're teaching emotional intelligence, one of the key things we teach is having the ability to localize emotions. Emotions don't just, like Akin said, it doesn't just creep up upon you. It comes in intensities.
So when you say localize emotions, what do you mean?
Understand an emotion when you are feeling it.
Okay.
You don't just get angry, like I like to say. I have to teach emotional intelligence to my children, and I like the analogy I always use. Now, if you're angry with your sister, for instance, and you hit your younger sister, when you go to school and your teacher is scolding you for something, do you get angry? My son says, yes, I do. Why don't you beat your teacher? Because it's the same anger you feel towards your teacher or you feel towards your mother that you feel towards your sister. So allowing that altered state affect your physical state and your psychological state means you have not embraced your emotion enough to know when it comes upon you and how to put a flip on it or a perspective on it that makes you act right.
You know, from everything you said, One of the things I picked is the fact that to manage your emotion is within your reach and within your power.
Yes, you have the
within your
ability
power.
to.